This is Matthew Cratter from Trade University, and today I want to talk about buying a house with your Bitcoin. If you're thinking of selling your Bitcoin to buy a house, I would suggest that this is a really bad idea. Here's a pretty good meme when he says, let's sell our Bitcoin to buy a house. If you sell your Bitcoin position for fiat, for US dollars or euros or yen or Australian dollars, whatever it is, even if it's to buy a house, you will most likely miss out on Bitcoin's massive future price appreciation. You'll also end up paying a lot of capital gains taxes in the meantime. And I want to point out as well that selling your Bitcoin is not taking profits. This is how altcoiners talk, and this is how people who talk who don't really understand what kind of money Bitcoin is, how it's the hardest money in the history of the human race. If you're selling your Bitcoin for US dollars, it's a lot like selling your US dollars for bottle caps or seashells. This is just something that a little kid would do. It would not be a wise financial decision because you're basically exiting a superior currency and buying an inferior currency. Smart people are beginning to understand this and not talk like altcoiners anymore. When should I take profits on my Bitcoin? The answer is just like Warren Buffett says, the best time to sell a stock is never. So smart people are beginning to understand that you should never sell your Bitcoin. Then, of course, there are the bankers. If you have some Bitcoin and you go to your bank and you want to take out a loan against it or want it to count toward your assets, chances are your legacy bank will value your Bitcoin at close to zero. Maybe they apply a huge haircut that it's worth 10% of the value or something like this. But of course, bankers are threatened by Bitcoin. Bitcoin is rat poison for the existing system. I also like this meme. Oh, you think banks are evil? Remind your banker that next time you try to get a loan. And this is a situation that obviously a lot of Bitcoiners are in and will be in increasingly in the future as Bitcoin continues to appreciate. And the way Bitcoin works is even if you buy just a little bit of it, it goes up so much over time that it becomes the it becomes the majority of your net worth. So enter a very interesting product. This is a mortgage product by Ledn that they're calling a Bitcoin mortgage. And I think it's very clever. First, I should say, of course, I'm not getting paid by Ledn or anyone else to make this video. I don't have a relationship with the company. They are not offering mortgages yet in the US. It looks like they're running test mortgages. They're just rolling out the program in Canada, and they will be rolling this out in the US and Canada in the first quarter of next year. I probably won't be getting a Bitcoin mortgage next year, but these are the kind of products I'm very interested in keeping track of because I think they really herald the future and they show us what the Bitcoin ecosystem is going to look like. So how does this work? A client wishing to take out a Bitcoin mortgage needs to own Bitcoin equivalent to the property they are purchasing or already own. You can do a loan against your existing equity in your house, I believe. This is a really interesting product because it's the first mortgage I've ever seen that uses two types of collateral. Both the property you're purchasing and your Bitcoin are being used as collateral. And so let me explain how I think this is going to work. And again, a lot of these details still need to be rolled out. And once they're rolled out, I will cover this in more depth. But at a general level, this product, this Bitcoin mortgage from Ledn, allows home buyers to get a loan equal to 100% of the Bitcoin that they post as collateral. You probably shouldn't post all of your Bitcoin as collateral, as we will see. And then the collateral for this loan, it's collateralized by the house you're buying plus the Bitcoin that you post. So let's say that you have $1 million worth of Bitcoin. And in case you think that this is a really high number, I don't think it's as unrealistic as you think, since one Bitcoin, if you own one Bitcoin now or were able to buy one last year at $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 for a Bitcoin, I believe one Bitcoin will equal $1 million denominated in US dollars in just a few years from now. And it's on its way to $5 million per Bitcoin, $10 million per Bitcoin, $20 million per Bitcoin with real purchasing power. This doesn't mean that a loaf of bread is going to cost $1 million when this happens. Bitcoin is eating the world, and this is what increased adoption is driving, this more purchasing power. So if you have $1 million worth of Bitcoin and you want to take out a Bitcoin mortgage from Ledn, you can buy theoretically $1 million house, and 50% of the loan will be against your Bitcoin, 50% will be against the house. And I'm not sure exactly what the legal documents look like for this, of course, but this is the general idea. And the idea is that the real estate is a much less volatile asset. Bitcoin obviously moves around a lot, and this has been the problem with Bitcoin loans in the past, is if you take out a loan even very conservatively and Bitcoin falls like 90%, as it seems to do every 4 years, 80, 90%, then you can end up getting liquidated and lose all your Bitcoin. So I think this is an interesting product because they try to give you some cushion by having the value of your house in there as well. Now again, borrowing money can be risky, and you have to size your position in the right way. What's nice about this, though, it's not like a margin call. It's not like a leveraged position on an exchange or a lot of the traditional Bitcoin loans that exist right now, where you get liquidated immediately and your Bitcoin gets sold if Bitcoin falls a certain amount. But in this case, Ledn will allow you 2 weeks to meet the margin call. So if Bitcoin falls a certain amount, and again, this is to be decided. I'm not sure whether it has to fall 50%, and then you have to put up collateral because you still have that 50% collateral coming from your house. I'm not sure exactly the mechanics of how this would work, but it's probably roughly like that. And that allows them to give you more time to meet a margin call. A margin call just means you need to post, in this case, I would imagine more Bitcoin, possibly more US dollars or a stable coin instead, and then they convert it to Bitcoin, however it's going to work in practice. So in practice, you don't want to use all of your Bitcoin to buy a house in this way. You need to keep some Bitcoin on the side to meet a margin call, as well as to make monthly mortgage payments. This is like any other mortgage. There will be monthly mortgage payments. It's a little bit unclear what the interest rate's going to be. They do say that it's lower than some of their other Bitcoin loan products. So we will see. We will also see, hopefully this will be a multi-sig solution where you will not completely give up your Bitcoin, your private keys, but you'll be able to own one key, maybe 1 out of 3 keys. Again, we will know more of the details early next year. Currently, this is a 2-year mortgage, and before you groan and say that this is that will never work, the way this would work is you have to keep rolling the mortgage. So after 2 years, assuming Ledn is successful, assuming Bitcoin continues to do as well as it's been doing, they will extend your loan by another 2 years. So that's another risk. This would be a risk if you take out a loan and then all of a sudden they decide not to roll your old mortgage into a new mortgage after 2 years. Then you would need to come up with the money to pay off the mortgage, or you'd need to sell your house. So again, borrowing money, you have to do it in a conservative way, and you have to think about all the things that could go wrong. And they probably won't go wrong, but you want to have sort of a contingency fund. Again, we don't know the interest rate on this product. We don't know a lot of details, but I think this is the right way to go about it. And it looks like Ledn is doing this in a really big way. Says they expect to launch the product broadly in the US and Canada, presumably extending worldwide from there. Early next year, targeting over $100 million worth of Bitcoin-backed mortgages, originations by the end of the first quarter. So potentially, if they're able to keep that run rate up, it would be $400 million worth of Bitcoin mortgages next year. Again, this is a tiny, tiny sliver of the current mortgage market, but I think this is the kind of products we will continue to see. And this can become a very competitive space, and eventually traditional bankers will need to move into the space as well. There are rumblings that Goldman Sachs is working on something similar. I personally much rather support Ledn than a company like Goldman Sachs, but I think we'll have a lot of choices in the coming years. The larger point of this video is that I want you to begin really thinking of Bitcoin as a working asset, as a store of value, as a hard asset that you can keep in your family forever. And your Bitcoin can work for you by borrowing against it. And I think you should think of your Bitcoin like owning a Picasso. If your family has a Picasso that's been passed on down through the generations and you need spending cash, you'd be very, very foolish to sell that Picasso just so you could make your car payment or buy some consumer junk. You'd be much better off exhibiting the Picasso, maybe doing a local exhibit, selling tickets rather than selling it and converting it to fiat. And so I think this is how you should think about your Bitcoin as well. You never, ever need to sell it. In the future, you'll be able to borrow against it. And as Bitcoin goes up, even if you can only borrow against 10% of it, it will still be a significant amount of money. And in that case, if you borrow 10% against your Bitcoin, you wouldn't get a margin call unless Bitcoin fell more than 90%, which will become increasingly unlikely. I think the bear markets will get more and more shallow. And as time goes on, more and more products will allow you to unlock your Bitcoin's value borrow against it at lower and lower interest rates. Maybe Ledn, maybe the interest rates on this mortgage will be on the high end at 5 or 6%. But then as more and more competitors enter the market, the mortgage rates on Bitcoin probably will adjust lower, and we'll have to somehow match the sort of fiat mortgage rates that we're currently seeing. So this is the difference between Bitcoiners and altcoiners. Altcoiners are thinking, is SHIB going to moon in the first quarter of next year? Or they're probably thinking, is SHIB going to moon next week? They have very, very short, very high time preferences, short attention spans as well. But Bitcoin is very different. Bitcoin, you want to accumulate it for your family for the next 10 generations. You want to dollar cost average into it and never sell it. And don't let yourself talk about taking profits on your Bitcoin, because it really is a meaningless statement. It's like taking profits on your Zimbabwe dollars. It's like taking profits on your US dollars and converting them back into Zimbabwe dollars, or some other failed or failing currency. If you want to study this in a little bit more depth, I made a video a couple months ago about how to use Bitcoin loans to buy anything. And this goes into a little more depth and a little more at the theoretical level, how Bitcoin loans work, how margin calls work, etc. So you can check that out. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.